As Priya did not want to get involved with Vedanta, Tina and Ruhi took her away from Vedanta. As soon as they left, Mahi looked at Vedanta and asked, "What did you do with Priya?" Vedanta raised his shoulders and said, "Nothing, you know how decent I am." Hearing Vedanta, Mahi looked at Ranvir. Jyotirji was looking at him with a smile. He looked at her and said, "Yes, yes, I know, you are as decent as your brother." Saying this, Mahi also left from there. As soon as she left, both of them laughed. Priya was roaming around Ruhi's room and telling her all the stories. And Tina, Mahi and Ruhi were sitting on the bed and listening to her story very carefully. The three of them were sitting as if an interesting movie was playing in front of them. The three of them had their hands on their chin. And the three of them were sitting in the same position. Then Priya, sitting on the bed, cried and said, "I can't tell you how much she has hurt me." Ruhi put her hand on her shoulder and said, "Look, who can stop what is happening? Everything is in the hands of God. Whatever has to happen, happens." Listening to Ruhi, the three of them started staring at her with strange eyes. So Ruhi quickly said, "Oh, this is how you give consolation. Last month, when one of our distant uncles passed away, Grandma was consoling her family on the phone like this. I had heard." Priya, staring at her with devouring eyes, said, "No one has died here. If you have any great idea, tell me, so that I can get rid of that brother of yours." Mahi sat down, put on her headdress and said, "Forget that, now they are going to leave you. I think they like you." Then Mahi said with all her heart, "After all, they are Ranvir's brothers. So they will do the same." Priya stood up in anger and said, "You all are of no use. Leave it, I will help myself." Saying this, she walked out of the room. All three of them saw her leaving and shook their heads and said, "Nothing can be done about this." Then Ruhi and Tina hugged Mahi and said, "Mahi, we came to you to apologize. But in the process of listening to Priya's Puran, everyone forgot. By the way, it feels good to see you like before." Mahi also hugged both of them and said, "Hey, you didn't do it on purpose. And I didn't even know that the demon was after me. Now you both don't remind me of all that." Tina said with a smile, "So let's start having fun." Saying this, she picked up the pillow and started hitting both of them. Mahi and Ruhi also started hitting each other with pillows. But there was someone who was smiling at all three of them. That was Ranvir. Ranvir knew that Mahi had a very good bonding with her friends. And her friend can help her to be as normal as before. Priya came out of the room. She saw Vedant's car outside in the parking area. Seeing her, Priya had a crazy idea. She looked around, but she didn't see anyone there. She quickly went to Vedant's sports car and took out her hairpin and said, "You have troubled me a lot. Now it's time to teach you a lesson." Saying this, she started blowing air from the tire. At the same time, she was also looking around to see if anyone was watching her. Then she blew the last air of the tire and said, "Now you will know the result of messing with Priya Maheshwari." Priya was doing her job in her own way, without noticing that someone is standing next to her. Someone tapped on Priya's shoulder. Priya said without looking back, "Don't disturb me. I am busy with an important work." Someone tapped again. Before Priya could say anything, she had an idea. "Someone has caught me red-handed." Then she slowly turned and looked up. Vedant was staring at her with his hands tied. Priya said with all her heart, "Now there was no one here. Then how did this demon appear?" Then she stood up and said with courage, "My hairpin had fallen near your car. So I was looking for it." Vedant said with his eyebrow, "Car?" Then he pointed to his car and said, "Do you think my limited edition sports car worth 5 crores is a waste?" Hearing the price of the car, Priya was left speechless. Sometimes she looked at the car, sometimes at Vedant. Then she said with surprise, 5 crores? In this much, I can build a whole factory of cars." Vedant teased her with the car and said in anger, "You can build the factory later. First tell me, why did you blow the tire of my car?" Tell me. Priya said with all her heart, think Priya, think. Suddenly her mind went blank. Then she put her hand on Vedant's chest and said, no Vedant, it's not what you think. You're. Vedant looking at her, Priya changed her words and said, I mean, I have not punished your Mr. Sports car of 108 Samanya limited edition. She was coming to me with my disrespectful hairpin and was getting angry at her. That's why I wanted to find her and punish her. Saying this, Priya was looking at the car with great interest. Or you can say that she was acting to see. Vedant was stuck in her heavy words. And looking at her with strange eyes, the mind started thinking, is this girl crazy herself or making me crazy? Priya took advantage of the opportunity and started running away from there. And went a little far and said, should I not buy a junk car like you for 500 rupees? Remember, it can be very expensive to mess with Priya. Vedant was angry at her. As soon as he turned towards her, Priya ran away quickly. Vedant kicked the tire in anger and said, Priya Maheshwari, I will see you. Here in the evening, Dadi, Anita ji and Sarika were sitting in the Mahi hall. They were all talking to each other that Vaishali also came there. Vaishali was very happy with the news of Mahi's kidnapping. As soon as she came back, she was burnt. Seeing the love of the family for Mahi, she was burning inside. Vaishali said, Mahi, whatever happened to you, it was very bad. You don't know, when you were kidnapped, I was getting all kinds of bad thoughts in my mind. I don't know what to do with you. Hearing Vaishali's words, Mahi, who was still a little normal, she again remembered all that. Dadi was very angry with Vaishali. Before she could say anything, Anita ji said, Vaishali, is it necessary to repeat all those old things? Where was Vaishali going to be quiet? Anita, I was just reminding you that since Mahi has returned home, you people have not purified her. Mahi was with a stranger. I don't know where she must have touched her. I agree that nothing happened to her, but still, touching a stranger's body has become a nuisance. That's why I. Sarika said, that's it. Sarika couldn't bear it anymore. That's why she screamed suddenly. While Anita ji and Dadi were staring at Vaishali with burning eyes. Sarika said angrily, how can you be a woman yourself and say such a disgusting thing? How can you say such a thing? Mahi doesn't need to be purified, your thoughts need to be purified, which is extremely disgusting and disgusting. Vaishali said angrily, yes, you will only take your sister's side. In earlier times, such women were thrown out of the house, even if a stranger touched them. Here, your sister was with a stranger for many hours. I don't know what happened between the two. Before she could complete her speech, a strong slap hit her face. Vaishali held her cheek and started looking at the person who slapped her. This was Anita ji, who was staring at her angrily. Mahi is not my daughter-in-law, she is my daughter. And I don't give anyone the right to say such a thing for her. Then pointing her finger, she said, quietly apologize to my daughter. Grandma said, didn't you hear? Apologize. Vaishali knew very well that if she didn't apologize now, then she and her daughter would have to leave from here. Then what about those dreams that they both came here to fulfill? She apologized to Mahi and said, forgive me, I didn't mean to say that. Mahi was sitting with her head down. Tears were flowing from her eyes. Sarika hugged her and said, Mahi, it's not your fault. Please don't cry. Then Ranvir's cold voice echoed there. What happened? Can I know what happened here? Ranvir, who had just come home from office with Rudra, was very angry to see Mahi crying. Hearing Ranvir's voice, Vaishali stayed there. Because last time, what did Ranvir do with Samira? Samira told her mother what he did with Samira. And if Ranvir finds out what she was saying about Mahi, then Ranvir will definitely spoil her condition. Mahi didn't want to stay there anymore. So she ran and went to her room through the stairs. When Ranvir saw Mahi leaving crying like this, he realized something was wrong. He once again asked in his cold voice, what happened here? And why was Mahi crying? Vaishali, now to save herself, said with a false regret, "It's nothing, Ranvir." Mahi was sad because she remembered the past. "I was just comforting her." Then Sarika came forward and said in anger, "Were you comforting her or sprinkling salt on her wounds?" Hearing this, Vaishali started staring at Sarika with devouring eyes. Rudra came to Sarika and asked, "Sarika, tell me clearly what happened." Sarika told everything to Ranvir and Rudra. As Sarika was telling Ranvir everything, Ranvir's anger was also increasing. His fists tightened in anger. As soon as Sarika finished her talk, Ranvir shouted at Vaishali in anger, "How dare you say this about my wife?" Ranvir shouted so loudly that Vaishali started shivering. Ranvir said, "Do you want Mahi to be purified? What do you think about your own daughter? She wore a short dress in the middle of the night and came to seduce me in my room." Hearing Ranvir's words, Dadi and Anitaji put their hands on their faces in surprise. Sarika and Rudra were shocked and started looking at Ranvir. Vaishali was now shivering. Ranvir said, "Whatever happened with Mahi, it was her wish. But your daughter came to a strange man's room on her own. She also knew that I am someone else's husband." Then he tied his hands and said, "So tell me, who needs purification? My Mahi was pure yesterday and is pure today. Because her intention, her heart is pure. And no one's bad intentions can spoil her." Before Ranvir said anything else, Anitaji said, "Ranvir, you go to your room. Mahi needs you right now." Ranvir looked at Vaishali and went to his room. Will Vaishali and Samira stop their actions? Or will they continue to try new ways to trouble Mahi? To know more, keep listening to Oh Baby only on Love Pulse Diaries.